G'day, I'm Guy Allen, and this gadget we're playing with today is a Suzuki SV650. This generation SV650 is a learner approved bike, which means it's been detuned a little from some previous generations. This one produces about 35 kilowatt or about 48 horses. That may not sound like a lot, but it's enough to pump the bike along at a pretty good pace. One of the distinctive things about these motors is that they have that lovely V-twin beat to them, that really good punchy feel out of corners. Even though this is a detuned version, it gets off the line crisply, and if you surf that wave of mid-range power, you'll be pretty happy with the performance. Okay, this engine is an upgrade from some of the previous SV engines. Suzuki says that it's updated the electronics considerably. As an example, when you go to start the bike, you don't have to hold that starter button, you in fact just tap it and the starter runs until the engine fires up, so it's self-monitoring. Suzuki also says that it's put a lot of effort into the low range injection, which means that you should get a nice crisp getaway even if you're not absolutely perfect on the throttle. Now, my experience with this bike is it does deliver what it says. It is exceptionally good in tight manoeuvring in traffic. Overall, the bike is not the most sophisticated chassis out there. It's nicely presented, and in fact there's a lot of updates for this particular model. That said, the front suspension is very basic, no adjustment. Rear suspension is adjustable for ride height only. The damping and spring ratios they've chosen are just fine. They're a good sort of middle of the road compromise, reasonably comfortable, and they seem to keep control of the bike, and you certainly can feel what's going on underneath you. As a handler, it's sharp enough, it turns in easily, it's predictable when it's in the corner, and mid-corner bumps aren't going to upset it too much. So overall, it gets good marks for that. Transmission is typical Suzuki, swift, slick, 6 speeds, no real surprises there. Nice light clutch action. The finish is pretty good. The paint on this white version, for example, has a little blue pearlescent through it, which was a bit of a surprise when we put it under lights. One of the upsides of the redesign is the bike is physically smaller. It's slimmer across the tank and seat, which means you don't have to be a giant to get on it. In the changeover from the previous generation to this, and to get the size down, the tank has also shrunk a little bit. We've lost a couple of litres of fuel, which means we have just shy of 14 litres on board. Not a huge amount, but this thing is reasonably gentle on the juice. A range of 250 kilometres is certainly not out of the question. The engines in these things have powered all sorts of Suzukis over time. 3 generations of SV650 now in various guises, plus the Gladius range, plus the DL650 range, otherwise known as a V-Strom. There's literally hundreds of thousands of these motors have been built. It's a good, reliable, tough engine. Really won't give you any problems so long as you keep the oil changes up to it and maintain it properly. It should last a very long time. Overall, the handling package is benign. There's no surprises to it. Tips in easily, does all the right things through corners, the suspension works just fine, and of course it's got ABS. These aren't the highest tech brakes you'll ever see out there. They're relatively basic, but they're quite strong. They're more than enough to do the job. The feel is good, and I like the fact you've got that ABS safety net. So, to sum up, not the biggest fuel range in the world, not necessarily the best equipped bike in the world, but a great overall package, does the job very nicely, and I think it's well priced.